Hey folks, Randy here doing Cut and Trim. So, it's been a while since I've been on this channel and I figured I would come back and just talk about something really boring. This is for the service autopilot users out there. Just something to be aware of. I am coming from you from the future doing Cut and Trim office. At some point you'll get a tour. Don't worry, it won't take long. So, I made a video back in October saying that I was switching payment processors, that I've been using Blurpay integrated with Service Autopilot since 2016, and that I was switching over to Clearent. I had met with the Clearent guy at the GIE Expo, and he sold me and did a good job. However, there was some details that got left out that I didn't know, and so I just wanted to give you guys a heads up. So I didn't want to change payment processors during the lawn season, because the lawn, cutting grass, it bleeds into leaves, and I just didn't want to have any hiccups in the middle of that busy time. And I'm really glad I decided to do that, because I decided, forgive me, I'm holding this because I can't find my tripod thingy. I decided that I would make the switch over the Christmas break. So I signed up for Clearent in October, didn't actually switch over till I think like December 31st, and then I had my first transactions on the 2nd of January. So the first thing that happened is when I went to run a credit card for the first time. Oh, well, no, let me back up. So there was some confusion about getting the credit card information that was in Blurpay over into Clearent. Clearent said it would not be a big deal to transfer the credit card information over to Clearent from Blurpay. They said, not a big deal. Contact Blurpay, ask them for the tokens. Let us know when you got them. They made it sound easy. So when I went to get everything set up with Clearent, in Service Autopilot, there was a thing that said, hey, call this number when you're switching, just to make sure everything's good. So I called that number, which ended up being Service Autopilot's number, and Service Autopilot was like, I don't know why you're calling us. But they said that Clearent could help me get my tokens from Blurpay, and I was like, okay. So I called Clearent, and so Clearent, it was New Year's Eve, and I guess they were swamped, and honestly probably didn't really feel like doing much at that point. So they were like, hey, yeah, we might be able to help you, but honestly it'll be faster if you just contact Blurpay yourself, because we got, we're slammed here, and blah, blah, blah. And I was like, all right, I'll do that. So I contacted Blurpay, and Blurpay, the first thing they said was that to transfer the credit card information over, it would be $700 for the first 1,000 cards, which is like, okay, I only have a couple hundred that needed to be transferred over, but it was going to be $700, and I was like, well, that's nuts. I'm not paying $700. And the Blurpay guy was like, well, who are you transferring to? And I said, Clearent. And they were like, oh, well, we weren't going to give you the tokens for that anyway. Clearent's in the middle of a merger. So, we don't transfer tokens to companies that are in the middle of mergers. I don't know, man. That sounded kind of made up to me. Besides, I don't think Clearent's in a merger. I thought they bought Service Autopilot. I didn't think it was a merger. I don't know. Somebody can correct me on that. But either way, they wouldn't give me the tokens. So I was like, okay, well, wasn't going to pay the $700, and you weren't going to give it to me even if I did. So guess we're not doing that. So I decided, well, I guess I'm going to have all my customers put in their credit card information again, which isn't the end of the world. That's not a big deal. So I had my first customer that wanted to prepay for the lawn season. We run a deal in January. And I told her, like, hey, we need to update your card. She goes to update a card. It won't let her. And I'm like, ugh. So I'm kicking myself for not testing this first. So I go in, I try and see it, and I'm able to replicate the problem she's having. It's saying there's no HPP key or something, which I later found out is the public key that you need. You guys that have dealt with the integrations and stuff, you know, you got like the API key and then the public key. And it's saying I don't have a public key, which I do. I put it in myself. So I call Clearent, tell them about, this is January 2nd at this point. Tell them about the problem that I'm having, and they say, that's weird. They look into some things, they're like, you should be fine. You're gonna have to call Service Autopilot. At which point, it's like, goodness gracious, this is so annoying. So I start thinking to myself, is there any possibility that I could have put the public key in wrong? And I was like, I don't think so, because I just copied and pasted out of the document. And I was like, but the public key is like an ungodly number of characters, and so like on the document that I got, it's like 4 lines of letters and numbers. So I was like, So I went through the public key that I had put into Service Autopilot, and sure enough, every time that a new line started in that document, there was actually a space in the key, and the spaces aren't supposed to be there. So I deleted the spaces that were in the key that I'd copied in. Everything worked perfect. So we all the customers that wanted to prepay for the season, we had a couple of them do it on the 2nd, so it rang up a couple $1,000s worth of credit card charges, and great. I think everything's great. And then the next morning, the 3rd, I get an email from the risk assessment team or something like that from Clearent saying that my account has been flagged because I opened the merchant account with them in October and didn't use it till January. And what's up with that? So it's like, I thought that was going to be a big deal. That ended up not being a big deal. They wanted copies of the invoices and an explanation for the delay. And so I gave it to them, and told them, I just didn't want to have to everybody re-enter their cards during a busy time of the year. And here are the invoices, and that cleared that up. But man, it was not as simple as I thought it was going to be to switch over to Clearent. It ended up being a bit more of a process than I had expected. So I figured I would just share my experience with you guys so that you'd be aware of it. And if you have that problem with the public key, check and see if you've got any spaces in there, because that might be what's going on. So this is Randy with Dolan Cut and Trim. I hope this video is helpful to you. Have a good one.